All right, hi everyone. My name is Shalini. I will be discussing my thesis today, which is going to be about balancing mission and money decision making in nonprofit organizations. All right, and to give you guys a quick rundown of what we will be discussing in this video is first of all, we will be discussing the introduction, so a little bit of a background and importance of this thesis and the study. And then, of course, the research questions that will be addressed throughout the study, the purpose of this thesis, why I have chosen this, and why I want to explore this idea a little bit more. Of course, the methodology, so the different methods I will be using to help further my thesis and help prove or help support it. Apologies. And then, of course, the early observations that have already been made. So, the some findings that have already been identified about nonprofits and decision making. And then, of course, the impact this thesis, or I'm hoping this thesis will bring to the nonprofit sector. So, to give you guys a little bit of an introduction and, of course, the problem statement. So, as everyone knows, nonprofits are incredibly important, they are incredibly essential for filling the service gaps in society that the government or public sectors are not able to get to or reach to. They play a huge role in addressing community needs, but unfortunately, a lot of them struggle financially, and this prevents them from addressing community needs. It limits the services they're able to provide, and hopefully with my thesis, or the intentions with my thesis, is to look into how they're able to, or how they can better manage their money, and what strategic decisions they can make to help navigate through these challenges. So then, of course, we want to discuss what main research questions will be addressed. My research aims to explore how nonprofits think through money-related decisions. So the main guiding questions I'll be using to shape my study is going to be, of course, what are the most reoccurring challenges or situations that happen within the internal operations? How do nonprofits balance the goals of their mission with their overall operations? So, how they're able to ensure that their mission is continuously being chased after while also ensuring that their internal operations are steady and, of course, experiencing stability. And then, of course, we want to examine what financial strategies have worked or failed. So we want to see what financial strategies successful nonprofits have taken on, and then what financial strategies have um, instead interfered with the mission and prevented nonprofits from carrying out their goals or from meeting their goals. And then, of course, we want to address the external factors such as policy shifting or changes in the economy, because all of this can influence decision making within a nonprofit. It can interfere with how they get their money, with how they're able to address community needs, stuff like that. All right, so now with the purpose of the study and why I have chosen this study. So the purpose of the study is really to take the time to explore and analyze how nonprofits are able to make certain decisions during tough times, so certain financial decisions, and also identify what strategies can be used or have been used in the past that help support long-term stability and ensure that a nonprofit is able to um, maintain its goals. And then, of course, why choose this? So this project stemmed or grew from a service learning course that I took last semester. And with the local, or I volunteered at a local nonprofit for this course and ended up working for them. So I, of course, gained firsthand experience on how a nonprofit works. And I also discussed my interest with my then professor and now faculty advisor, Dr. Gary Heitricht. We realized that with this topic, it hadn't quite been deeply explored yet from an accounting perspective, and thought it would be, and that most of the research done on nonprofits mostly focused on program outcomes or how funding is provided and used. But a few look deeply at how the decision making process is like from or when it comes to finances. So my work aims to fill that gap by bringing in both the business and policy or social policy advocacy perspectives, bringing that in together to see um, how nonprofits are or can operate better. All right, to now jump into the methodology, we will now discuss what strategies I plan to use to carry out the methodology for this research. So then, of course, with the first method is going to be a qualitative method. So by that, I'm going to be gathering data by observing, distributing surveys, and initiating casual sit-down conversations or interviews with small groups of staff members across 2 to 3 nonprofits. And so with observing, I want to be able to understand behaviors or employee behaviors, decision making, or how they're able to make decisions in short spans of time. Yeah, short span of time. And then of course, what their experiences have been like, or what their experience is like working in a nonprofit, what their day-to-day looks like, stuff like that. And then of course, my faculty advisor and I discussed the possibility of distributing surveys to team members across, again, the same amount of nonprofit organizations. And the purpose of the surveys is mostly to reach a broader range of perspectives. The fear with these sit down interviews and taking a day to observe employees and staff is that we may not be able to gather enough data or data that is very broad and diverse. So we want to keep the diversity there, and that is why I'm thinking about distributing surveys, but that is most likely going to happen. And of course, the second method that I'll be taking on is reviewing financial documents. So I will be reviewing IRS form or tax forms 990s and any other public financial documents that will help me highlight any trends. So with these documents or with these financial documents, I hope or the attention is to identify revenue sources. So to see how much money the organization brings in from donations, grants, program services, investments, and other income streams. And we also want to examine expense allocation. So we want to examine how funds are allocated across program services, administration, and fundraising. And the intentions with this is to help identify the balance between um, mission alignment and financial efficiency. And of course, we want to take a look at staff compensation. We want to see, we want to see a little bit of where the priority is and how employees versus leaders or management is compensated. Um, yeah, we want to see the priority behind that. And then, of course, we want to review change over time. So we want to compare um, Form 990s and any other public financial documents to from different years to see trends in growth, decline, or a shift in priorities. All right, so for the literature review, I will be using academic articles to identify key issues and themes, and hopefully we'll be able to further these issues and develop them more and analyze them. And so I have been able to compile quite a few sources for my thesis, but the two that I am very much certain on and will be using for sure is going to be, well, the first one is going to be Financial Health by Greenlee J.S. and H. Tuckman. So this article provides more of a financial perspective on NPOs and discusses their vulnerability during economic changes, the importance of financial management within or in practices like cash flow and treasury policies. And then, of course, it provides a discussion on donor confidence and fundraising success and how, or at least the importance of um, maintaining healthy, good relationships with donors to ensure that the money keeps coming in. And then, of course, with the finance perspective, we also want a public policy perspective. So, with Dennis Young's Nonprofits as a Resilient Sector: Implications for Public Policy, it provides different perspectives or different viewpoints on nonprofit resilience, and it even develops a theory Salamon's sector level focus by further analyzing the organizational and network resilience, and also highlights how individual nonprofits also need to adapt very strong strategic and managerial approaches to ensure that there's space within their finances, and there's encouragement, or employees are feeling encouragement to learn more and to be trained more to help navigate through any sort, or to ensure that they are able to navigate through any sort of crises or situation. And then, of course, some observations that have already been made within this field of study is how nonprofits are struggling or tend to struggle with employee burnout, staff retention, and low pay. And then also, there is a huge dependence on grants and donor streams, which is very risky because a donor or a grant could easily be pulled, or a donor could easily decide that they don't want to donate any money or as much money as they have previously. And then, of course, some possible findings that I want to um, explore and investigate a little bit is what factors directly impede the internal organization, and what leadership styles play a role in how an organization is maintained and run. All right, and then of course we want to discuss the contribution and impact of this thesis and of this study, what we are hoping to, or what we are trying to aim for. And what we're trying to aim for is really to provide a fresh, or the goal of this thesis, of this study, is to offer fresh perspectives on, or a fresh perspective on actionable insights for nonprofits. And then we want to, of course, explain certain trade-offs. We want to help funders and policymakers, leaders of nonprofits understand real-world trade-offs and how they can navigate their nonprofit through these trade-offs. And then, of course, the purpose of this thesis is to provide better support. I'm hoping that it could lead to better support with grant structures, leadership training, and of course, policy design. And then, as said previously, there isn't much literature on nonprofits, or at least from an accounting perspective. There is some, but it is a small but growing literature. And so I'm just hoping to add to that and to continue the discussion of how, or nonprofit finance from a decision making perspective. Right, and that is all for this presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and please, I welcome any feedback, any sort of criticism, anything would be appreciated. Thank you and have a good day.